Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Zenith, that podcast where we only drink to socialize, because this week we watched Rumors of Death.
Written by Chris Boucher.
Directed by Fiona Cumming. Hey, I recognize that name from Doctor Who.
Yeah, and aired on February 25th, 1980.
Yeah, 1980.
Yeah,
just 1980.
Yeah.
Well, I made it sound like you were going to say another number after that.
I mean, I don't know why I forgot what year this came out, because I know they're coming out in the 80. In 80, not the 80s. 80. Yeah, Fiona Cumming was on Doctor Who.
Well, she wasn't on. She directed Doctor Who.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant. She was on the production crew.
I don't remember.
She directed
Did she
stuff. She directed. No, she directed it like Enlightenment, I think, and stuff from that era.
Did she direct Castrovalva for some reason?
Yeah, she directed Castrovalva. She directed. What was right before Castrovalva? The last Fourth Doctor story. Whatever that was, she directed that, I believe.
Oh man.
We're looking her up right now, so we're going to confirm what it was.
Yeah. Her credits include Castrovalva, Snake Dance, Enlightenment,
maybe she didn't
most of Planet of Fire.
Yeah, she didn't write for the Fourth Doctor, I guess.
Snake Dance, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, direct. Snake Dance is my favorite Fifth Doctor story. And this is one of my favorite episodes of Blake 7.
She was also production assistant on The Mutants, The Seeds of Death, and The Highlanders, and assistant floor manager on The Massacre.
Ooh, there's a blight on her record.
Anyone being involved in The Massacre is a blight on their record. That absolute tragedy of television. Tragedy because it sucks, not because it's sad. Speaking of Doctor Who, we're still airing in the interseason era. There's nothing new to note there. Speaking of airing in the interseason era, this is a bad segue, but we're completely just destroying the question segment of the show.
Oh, yeah.
We got feedback from a couple listeners. We got feedback from 2 people.
If you remember, the Sergeant Reno sent us an email a couple weeks ago saying that our question segment wasn't really working in its current form, and we received another email.
Which we should have responded to last week.
Right, yeah.
When this goes out from new correspondent Maurice, who also said that the question segment just wasn't really working.
So we're scrapping it. We're
scrapping it completely. We're just going to scrap it completely. Maybe in the future we can reboot it in a new form, but for now we're just completely scrapping it. And that's what we're going to do. Not to say I came up with a question for this episode, but we're just scrapping it. So that question will never see the light of day. It'll stay firmly in my head for the rest of my life.
You might forget it.
I probably will. Now that we're not doing these anymore, I'll just forget it. Anyway, I guess that's all the particulars out of the way. Except for, I guess we originally, many weeks ago, said we were going to be doing this episode with the Crinoid podcast, the Doctor Who podcast, Jim and Martin. Unfortunately, just due to scheduling things, that wasn't able to work out. But we will have Jim and Martin on the show at some point. We're working with them to figure out an episode that we will be able to record with everybody together. And
since we're talking about it, we're having frequent correspondent RG on next week to record Sarcophagus with us.
Right. Should be interesting. The first female guest we've had on all of our shows.
Yes.
And first person from Australia on Zenith. So, should be an interesting episode, I think.
Right.
And that'll be next week. And then now, with all the particulars actually out of the way, we can get into the rumors of death.
Or just rumors of death.
Well, I was saying like the rumors of death because I was going to say like the episode, but then I said the title instead of episode.
Well, there are rumors of death in this, so it could be lowercase, the rumors of death.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose.
The rumors of death in the rumors of death. Or sorry, the rumors of death in rumors of death.
So it begins. Well, so where does it begin?
It begins with Avon in a cell.
Yeah, it begins with Avon being tortured in a cell.
This is a strange opening for Blake 7. We've never really seen anything like this.
It's pretty rare for Blake 7 to start in the middle of a story.
Except, I mean, the one that really is the only one I think can remember that's even close to this is Trial, that starts with Travis being brought in.
Right.
And even then, it's not that similar.
Because typically we start with, there is a structure to Blake 7 episodes.
They're on the bridge and they're doing something dumb, like playing a card game.
They're doing something dumb on the bridge, and then whoever the leader is at the moment, whether it be Avon or Blake, goes...
Or Tarrant trying to step up to the plate and failing.
Or Tarrant trying to be leader, being like, yo, my dudes, let's do X, Y, and Z this week.
And then someone's like, no, that's a bad idea.
Someone
and
goes,
and then you brush them under the rug.
They throw them under the rug. They ignore any
and all
dissent,
warning signs.
And then they just go and do it. Typically, if we don't want to start with the bridge, we'll start with Servalan or Travis. But we always cut to the bridge. We always get the meeting on the bridge. We always find out what we're doing on the bridge. This is the structure of a Blake 7 episode that this episode completely subverts and throws out.
Boo! Never do this again. What is this?
It's true, though. If they keep doing this, it'll get really grating. Not that the previous format hasn't become really grating either.
I don't think it has, honestly. I like almost all the openings to the episodes.
Yeah, well, that's because even though the format is get the mission on the bridge, go do the mission, they don't always start on the bridge. Sometimes we start with Servalan, sometimes we start with Travis.
There's always pretty good dialogue here, too.
Right.
But this is a unique sort of opening, which was nice.
Anyway, Avon's being tortured by this guy named Shrinker, and he's like, tell me your name. I know you have a tracking beacon in it. Who's coming for you? And he's like, well, tracking beacon doesn't work till I turn it off. And I just did. And then Tarrant and Dana beam in.
Right, and Shrinker is the guy from Avon's past. So in the beginning of this story, we, like in Dawn of the Gods with Callie, we get more info like on Avon's past, and we follow up with that a little bit. But unlike Dawn of the Gods, we don't get a refresher as to his backstory until a little bit later in the episode, and even then it's not a great refresher.
Yeah.
So I wish there was something more here, and I realize that that's hard to put in the episode without, like, having this aside, like, remember when we discussed my past?
Remember when we discussed this woman I loved?
I realize that that's hard, but I wish there was something more
there. Because
I kind of forget. I kind of forgot what it was. And that's on me, I guess. I could have just gone back to that scene in Countdown, but I didn't. I also didn't go back and rewatch. What did I say I was going to rewatch?
Well, Volcano.
Not that, but what was last week? I've completely
Me
blanking
too.
on what it was called.
A City at the Edge of Forever? No, that was 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
I just edited that episode, so...
The Edge of the World Forever is from Star Trek.
Yep, you're right. Children of Orion.
Right, didn't go back and watch Children of Orion. I'm sure nobody's surprised. I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed in you. Just disappointed. My day is ruined and my disappointment is immeasurable.
The only thing that match your lack of surprise is the amount of disappointment you have.
Yes.
Anyway, I just want to touch on something that I'm going to probably touch on frequently through this episode, which is that this episode, this is kind of like my idea, like controlling idea for what this episode is. And this episode really drives home what Series C is, right? Which is that the Federation is gone now. There's not this monolith that's in control. There's not this information control that there was in Series A and B. You know, you think back to the beginning of Blake 7. What is one of the first things that the Federation does, and how are they established as, you know, the bad guys, right? Is that they manipulate information in the very first episode. Mm-hmm. And Series C is like this post, I don't know if I want to even use this term, but I'm going to anyway, so I guess I do in some capacity, is like this, is the Blake 7 universe post-truth. Mm-hmm. And that's even, I was thinking about this, that's even done in the intro, right? You think about the Series A and B intro, it's like, the exterminate sign, it's almost as if it's a wanted poster, and you see the security camera and stuff. There's surveillance. Surveillance is a big thing in Series A, especially near the beginning of the show, in Series B as well. And control, how the Federation controls information. Series C, the Federation's gone. There's not this monolith of truth anymore. The intro is ships flying free, man. It's just
ships flying free.
Yeah.
Running free in the pastures. I mean, it's almost like that thing it is that, in my opinion, it reminded me a lot of the thing I brought up in Harvest of Kairos, where there's been this swap in Series C, where no longer is it Blake the thorn in the Federation side, it's the Federation being the thorn in the Liberator crew's side.
And this episode is actually really about that. If you think of Series A and B as Blake trying to destabilize the Federation's very controlling, this iron fist of information that they have, and this control of this singularity of truth almost that they have. And now that's sort of reversed. There is no one. Mm-hmm. There's no single truth, and this episode actually touches on that. Yet Servalan is the one who now is trying to reestablish all of that.
Right, I mean, it even goes so far as they land on the planet, they find out there's a revolution going on, and they're just like, we don't really care, we're just here for Servalan.
Yeah, we actually get a little bit about that now. We cut to, I forget what she has many names. I forget what they are.
I mean, I'm probably just going to refer to her as Anna
Yeah,
because...
I didn't want to say that, but yes, Anna and Chescu. And this is what you spoiled, right? You spoiled that this was Anna.
Yes. Last week, because I was like, man, I'm really upset that I spoiled X, Y, Z. Yeah, it was that Sula, her name is Sula, is Anna. Which of those is her real name?
Probably none of them.
Or Bartholomew?
Probably not Bartholomew. Really suck. Her parents probably hated her if it was Bartholomew. We wanted a boy. No,
and I will name you Bartholomew.
I don't know. Who knows? And that's a really important thing, I think, too, is who knows what the heck her real name is.
I'm just going to refer to her as Anna.
Right, me too.
Because it's easiest.
I don't think that that spoiler is necessary. I don't think that was a big crux of the episode. I think the thing that comes right after that, which is that she's backstabbed Avon, is bigger.
Well, it's not even really a reveal because throughout the episode, Avon has these flashbacks to Anna, and then if you're perceptive enough, which is most people, you realize that it's the exact same actress as Sula.
I didn't notice that, but I did say midway through the episode, like, oh, Sula's probably Anna. But I didn't pick up on that it was the same actress for some reason.
That's interesting, actually.
The only thing they'd really do to hide it is her hair looks a bit different. But even
not that much different, though.
I did go back and rewatch those, like, one of the flashback scenes, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's her. It's totally obvious, but I just didn't pick up on it. Anyway, they're walking down this path, and Chescu is reciting this speech, which is what he's going to give at this they're planning for, like, this reinstatement of the Federation.
Yeah, they're going to, like, crown
Servalan, basically.
Servalan president. It's interesting to use the word crown and president in the same sentence like that, but it's basically what's happening here.
But this role also, you think of president, and that's just like a title, right? How it's used worldwide today is pretty uniform. Well, actually, maybe not. But, like, you can be called president and be a dictator, which is, what Servalan is basically becoming.
Putin.
And Chescu's like, so how was that? And Sula says...
the speech sucked.
She says, like, that was tacky and just terrible, and he's like, good.
And then she's like, surprise, I'm a rebellion. The rebellion's not as dead as you said it was.
I am the rebellion.
I am the rebellion. And then she just guns him down. And I was like, wow. The Senate. She's just like, oh, wow.
He tries to run away.
She shoots him in the back, and I was like, wow, that's cold. And then we cut to Shrinker on the ship with Avon.
Here's the thing about this. This is all taking place on this mansion on Earth, right? Mm-hmm. And here's the thing about this episode, because this really frames what this episode is. This was the only real big minus for me in this, and that's that there's nothing really cool about this setting. You think of, like, what Blake Seven has done.
I thought the setting was awesome.
Well, hear me out. There's this, think of, like, Dawn of the Gods, right? There's a freaking god creating his own empire from inside of a black hole. You think of these other stories like the web and all these other cool places they've gone, planets and stuff like that, and, like, this is just in a house on Earth and a cave and a cell, and that's fine for an episode, sure.
I thought it was awesome. We have this estate. I thought that was this really cool juxtaposition between, like, what's a typical science fiction setting, right? Like, using science fiction.
The center of a black hole with a god?
Yeah, like something like in space, a spaceship or a futuristic research facility or, like, a lab or...
all things we've had
all things related to, like,
constantly.
Science, typically. And then this is an estate. This is something that's very regal and Victorian almost.
A lot of the inside did look very, like...
the inside
60s, is... almost Bond-like, I want to say.
Right. It's all, like, authentic wood, and
it kind of
there's, like, no technology in this house.
Reminded me of Ocean's 11, the classic one.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Ruben's house. But it's all very low tech. There's no technology there except for the communicators. Like, and I love the set for the security room because you could tell that it was a room in the house that they had just, like, put these security consoles in. Like, they had converted this room to the security room. Like, that's not what it was.
Chairs to sit in. Those freaking got to sit down for 12 hours a day. And
I loved that.
I think you'd give them more comfortable chairs, but it sucks for them.
I loved how you could tell that this was a room in a very old estate that they had converted specifically for this purpose. Like, I love that juxtaposition there. I thought it was great.
I didn't.
I thought it was great.
I like the more out there things.
It's even one of my few notes. Security room looks good. My notes are like really brief.
Solid 4 words. Security room looks good. Simple, drives home the point.
My notes are usually like 4 to 5 words tops because I tend to dislike writing full sentences because I handwrite my note. Keon types his so he can write full sentences, and I handwrite mine, and I'm just not down for writing full sentences. I think the longest note I've ever written here is,
into my notes.
That was the worst bow ever. And then instead of saying bye Tarrant, I wrote the little ampersand >, Tarrant. Which I'm going to talk about that later because that bow was god-awful and ruined the entire episode.
No, it can't ruin the entire episode. Maybe just that scene. It can, but I question what you got out of this episode if that ruined the entire thing.
So Avon interrogates Shrinker. He takes him down to this cave. Well, so everybody gangs up on Shrinker, and Callie is like...
Liberator, and as soon as Avon gets up, Villa hands him this glass of what looks like pee. And I was like, that's my note. It's like, thought you might like this nice, cool glass of piss. And, Sergeant Drano in his email mentioned Bayban feeding Villa, fecal matter the other day.
No, but this is that bright green drink that they drank like a couple weeks ago that Making Blake 7th said he thought was creme de menthe, which, by the way, I looked up and it sounds delicious. And I discovered there's like an actual cocktail that you make with creme de menthe and an alcohol called Amarula, which is surprisingly South Africa actually has an alcohol that's like specific to it. Like Scotch is like Scotland and whiskey is Ireland. South Africa, it's Amarula, which is made from the fruit of the Amarula tree. Which ferments, and here's a fun fact, the logo of the Amarula drink is an elephant because the elephants eat the Amarula fruit and then get drunk. But there's a cocktail that you make with, fun fact, creme de menthe and Amarula, and those are the only two ingredients. And it's called Springbok.
How alcoholic or like how potent is this thing if it gets elephants drunk?
Very... Never had it.
Absinthe tier thing.
I've never had it, but we have a bottle of it in my house. And then this cocktail, I assume, is very powerful too, since creme de menthe is actually alcoholic as well.
Right.
But it's called a Springbok, after the Springbok, which is an animal native to Africa and is also the mascot of the South African rugby team. Anyway, I'm pretty sure this is creme de menthe, and they're actually getting smashed on the set.
Well, Villa definitely is later. But you're right, they sort of gang up on Shrinker here. And Callie doesn't want any part of it. She says that they're turning into animals or something like that, or like Shrinker's animality of, the atrocities he committed is contagious. Even Villa joins in the fun.
The fun?
Yeah.
You calling it fun is indicative of the fact that, it's contagious. Like, you consider that to be fun.
Yeah. Ganging up on the weak.
Is he weak, though?
In this moment,
is he actually weak, or is he, like, pretending? I think is the big question that has to be asked here, because Shrinker is an expert interrogator. He knows how to get information from people. Do you really think he's weak, or do you think he's just pretending because he thinks he can find out what's going on if he pretends to be weak?
I think it's a bit of both, because I think in this scene his power is really taken away from him. They take away his weapons. He's outnumbered and stuff like that. But I also think definitely when they get in the cave, he's considering his options.
Yeah, because now Avon comes back and takes him down to the cave.
Right, and as much in this scene, I did like the cave set. It looked really cool. As much in this scene as Avon wants to think he's in control, and he mostly is, but Shrinker he's not cowering in a corner or anything. He's considering his options. I think I did want to touch on the cave set before we get into what this the stuff in this scene. I liked the sound in this. Did you notice the water droplets and stuff like that?
Not much. I didn't notice it a lot, but it was
I noticed
there.
It a lot. Yeah, it was in the background, and it was great.
I thought the cave set was the weakest set of the story overall, because like I said, I just love the security room, and I love the house, and the outside areas, which were great, which, by the way, simultaneous while this is all happening, Anna's basically taken over the house. Right,
we can just sort of sum this up, because it's just her running around the lawn a little bit with her... I think this is the first time we see Federation troopers talk, and they're traitors, obviously, but I think this is the first time where we get a Federation trooper on screen, in a mask, in his full suit, and he's talking.
There's a security fault, which was tripped by Anna's people, but one of her people are disguised as Federation troopers, so they just hold up like a mouse to the camera or a bird, and they're making nests in the security system.
Right.
Nothing to be worried about here.
The guys in the security room are like, they're like, all right, and they have their own sort of personalities as well. They're not major characters, but enough is there. The one guy stole all his mother's money and ran off and stuff like that.
Well, the one guy would have saved the whole story if the other guy had listened to him and actually shut down the perimeter as soon as the security system went down. Shout out to that guy, most underrated Federation officer ever. And Servalan, I want to bring up Servalan's outfit this story because it's a combination white and black, which I think is interesting because it brings back that regal white that she wore basically her entire run, but also integrates the black that I think Jacqueline Pierce wanted to bring in when all her children were killed in Children of Alron last week.
Sure.
And it serves as kind of this meld between the two because the top is white and the bottom is black. Almost like a hybrid. Also, she's not wearing a bra again.
So, just getting back to Shrinker for a minute, I don't know if you noticed this, but they turn, both in the cave and on the Liberator, Avon and the rest of them turn their backs on Shrinker constantly. They just leave him unattended and look away from him constantly. And I was like, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that as much as you guys seem to do. I know they take his guns away, but still, I'd be scared of him making a break for it, which he doesn't, but...
Surprisingly. But, I mean, where would he go?
Avon even says, when they get down in the caves, Avon's like, we're in the center of a large cave system. Don't even try running.
He's like,
I guess he decides his chances are better with Avon than running through this cave system.
Avon
he's like, no, what did I do? What do you guys want from me? I'm innocent. You gotta believe me.
And he shows him a picture of Anna, and he's like, yeah, you remember her? And he's like, no, actually I don't. Never tortured her. Never saw her. Don't know who she is.
But there's a painting, like a cave painting of Anna on the wall. I guess Avon prepared it. I guess his revenge was that planned out.
I thought he was projecting it on the wall, actually, honestly.
Maybe that's what it was. But even that, he wanted this revenge to be long and sweet.
I, for some reason, seem to remember it phasing in when Shrinker's looking at it. But maybe I'm mistaken.
I don't remember, honestly. But regardless, whatever it is, he freaking planned this thing out meticulously.
Yes.
Which, again, is kind of a weird turn for all of a sudden Avon wants revenge on Shrinker.
Well, next week we'll go back to normal and do nothing. Shrinker then reveals that Anna didn't die at his hand. She died at the hands of some Federation officer named Bartholomew. Apparently, everybody who Avon looked at was brought in for questioning because of the bank robbery.
Right, and this is a scene where, again, I wish they detailed his backstory more than they did, but whatever. This is especially a problem if you were watching this live as it aired in the 80s, because there's pretty much, unless you taped it or recorded the audio or something, there's no way you would have been able to go back and watch it. I mean, now, this is sort of on me now. I can just pull up a countdown in 5 seconds and go to that part of the episode, but back then you couldn't have done that.
Right. Yeah, the most refreshing we get is right now, actually, he has a flashback and she's talking to him and he's like...
He has this line, and I wrote down the exact line. It's Anna asks if she trusts him, and he says he says yes, and then she responds with something along the lines of, don't you think that's dangerous? And he says trust is only dangerous when you have to rely on it. Which is interesting based on what happens later, I think.
Interesting.
And all of this scene is setting up this story, right? I mean, Avon... we'll just touch on this now. So... in series A and B, we get these sort of, mostly B actually, we get these sort of stories, actually yeah, as well, we get these stories for the characters, right? We get Callie's backstory to some extent, we get Avon's to some extent, but these are simple in series A and B. They're, not too detailed. We get what's given to us and, we expect okay, that's, what it is. Series C, comes back and complicates a lot of that.
Right.
It destabilizes a lot of that, I think. It makes you wonder, what's really going on here? Who's telling the truth? What is, all these different people are accessing the truth. And in this moment, Avon has to put together these things, whereas, meanwhile, as all this is happening, Servalan is trying to establish, the Federation, again, as this monolith of truth. But Avon, in this episode, very much has to sift through these stories from multiple different people, from multiple different perspectives, and put together his own version of the truth at the end, and that's done. At the end, he still, even though Anna may not have even really existed, he still loves Anna to some extent, or the idea of her. And he has to piece all of this together from Shrinker's story, from what he knows, from what Sula tells him, from what Servalan tells him. and it's all just really, it's trippy, and I don't think I'm even scratching the surface of what's going on in this story.
I mean, this story is Avon's Terminator moment, really, if you think about it. He just collates this information and goes, okay, well, X has got to die. And then right when he's about to kill X, they're like, no, wait. What you actually want is Y. And then he goes, well, I guess Y has to die. And then when they go, no, actually what you want is Z, right? Because Shrinker tells them that Bartholomew was Chuka.
You mean Chescu?
Chescu, sorry. And Avon goes, okay, well, so then it must be Chescu. So he beams up back to the Liberator right now, and he asks Aurak, hey, find out where Servalan is, find out how I can get there, and also look up Chescu, Counselor Chescu.
Did they leave Shrinker down in the cave?
Yeah, he left Shrinker in the cave. He leaves Shrinker in the cave.
He leaves Shrinker the gun, and he's like more than most people would do, or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, Shrinker is dead.
Yeah. Probably.
Wow.
And then Avon, apparently everybody goes along with this. Villa and Dana and Terrence are like, yeah, we'll come down to the planet with you and help you topple a regime and try to find your long-lost love and who killed her.
There's this line, I forget when he says this, but Avon says, I'm a man of my word. In the end, that's all there is, really. Mm-hmm. And, man, I love that line because that's what this episode is all about, right? It's like this interplay of like words and how those inform reality, how these multiple different stories like eventually coalesce and like form this version of reality that is specific to Avon and is specific to all these different sort of people, yet the Federation is so against that.
Right.
I don't know, man. It's hard to wrap my head around.
It's interesting, I think. Avon's been on this search for 2 episodes to find who killed Anna, and all he has to go on is, I guess, all these people. There's no records that he can access, even though he has Aurak who can access every Federation computer. You know, there's no records he just accesses to go, well, who killed Anna?
But also, like, even that one, the Federation is destroyed, so, like, their centralized truth bank is, like, no longer available. And also, like, what would he have found there?
I was actually thinking about that, like, wouldn't Aurak have been really nerfed with the destruction of the Federation since, like, he drew all that information and processing from the Federation computers, and without the Federation now, you know, how many of those computers actually still exist?
Right. There's also the question of, like, and Series C has really made me think about this. They, you know, when they used Aurak to tap into the Federation, they're just getting one perspective of these events, or if they look up events like this, you know, if, like, for example, if they had looked up, you know, what happened in Blake's second trial, and they would have found out, well, he's a child molester. That's what they would have found out, the Federation's version of the truth and their monopoly on the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think having a monopoly on the truth is an aspect of any, like, totalitarian regime.
Yep.
Which the Federation clearly was. If it still is a matter of debate, since we really don't know the extent of what exists of the Federation beyond Servalan and whoever her lackeys are.
Well, this to me is what this story is all about, right? Servalan trying to reestablish this monopoly on information by reestablishing the Federation.
Servalan in this story really is just a pawn when you think about it. She's not really the main villain behind this.
She lucks out at the end, and then she's very menacing, I think, in the sort of final scene with her. But it could have gone wrong for her very easily.
It did go wrong. She gets thrown in the freaking basement.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, she lucks out massively at the end of this.
So Avon and his pals teleport down, and then they find a dead Federation officer, and Avon just walks off, and then Tarrant's like, you guys go after him. And this is when Tarrant calls up Villa and is like, Villa, I need you to stay on the line and stay sober. And then I thought this was really funny. It just like smash cuts to Villa with a huge flask full of that green drink, and then a regular sized glass that he fills up, and then he's like, that's not fair. I only drink to socialize. And then he slams back the entire glass, and I'm like, what?
I think they're all down there, right? Is Callie? I know Dana and Tarrant are for sure.
Callie goes down.
Yeah.
They all go down, except for Villa.
Callie doesn't have much in this episode, which I think is fine because Dana and Tarrant, I think, have the bulk of the lines, at least. Tarrant more so than Dana.
Yes, well, we're coming up to Terrence.
His bow.
It doesn't actually ruin the episode. I'm being facetious.
Yeah, I know.
But it is terrible.
It's like that kiss he blew in Harvest of Kairos.
Oh, so what happens is Dana basically sneaks up on... Dana and Callie kill a bunch of Federation officers, and then Tarrant gives him a bow. And Stephen Pacey apparently never learned how to bow. Apparently no one on set was like, here's how you bow. Apparently no one looked at this footage and was like, Stephen.
Well, maybe it's Tarrant just being a massive mess up and stuff.
Stephen.
What are you doing, Stephen?
I'm going to try just make a GIF just of that bow. Just post it on Twitter for like a week.
Sure. I already have the Tarrant blowing a kiss GIF. Shout out to Making Blake 7 for that.
Yeah, get ready for Tarrant failing at bowing. And they break into the house.
But meanwhile there's dissent among the ranks. The coup has basically succeeded, and they're going to hold this meeting as to what to do next. Apparently they didn't decide what to do next.
All great revolutions reach this point.
I think this was all part of Anna's plan, right? She's like, I'm not going to tell them what we're going to do, even though I'm the leader, and then I'm going to instate myself, and it's going to go totally fine, nothing to worry about.
Right. Well, because the men want to kill Servalan because they're like, Servalan has ruled over us for too long. We should just cut the head off the Hydra now. And then Anna's like, no. If she dies, she says, I think, if she dies, she's just another body.
Right. Anna sort of wants to instate a puppet government, really, with her in control and Servalan as the figurehead.
Right.
And there's this one sort of spokesperson.
Kind of like,
what, Bounty?
Bounty.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, yeah, they really are just Federation. You think, like, if Anna succeeded, would this have just been Federation 2.0? Probably, yeah. There's this one.
Yeah.
She's discussing this with this one guy who's sort of the spokesperson for all of the quote-unquote troopers, the rebels, basically. And you get the impression here that he wants his own slice of the pie as well.
Right. I mean, it's everybody wants a slice of the pie, really. And that's why all of Servalan's plans fail, for example, because everybody wants to be the best, and
when you think about it, Travis was a huge mess up in his own ways, but that's maybe part of the reason why A, Servalan kept him around for a long time, and B, why he was able to, or like why he didn't vie for power as much, is because all he wanted to do was kill Blake. Like, he didn't care about anything after a while.
He didn't care about becoming Federation President or Supreme Commander or whatever. He just wanted to kill Blake. Not like, all those other people who Servalan has to.
Right, like Daryl and Ginkgo were definitely vying for power.
Or she has to convince them to help her because she's like, if you win, you can have the Liberator. Or like, if you kill Blake, you can have the Liberator. Classic Federation.
Anyway, I think they just sweep all this under the rug for now. They're like, we'll just figure out when we're on stage. And they go into the room. But one of the guys from the security room survived, and he's contacted the Federation.
Right.
So they're coming.
But then Avon's
also coming.
They arrive in the security room, and they pick him off the ground. I'm like, you're going to show us where Servalan is, or we're going to kill you right now. And he's like, okay.
It's like, all right, I guess I have no choice.
Not even in control right now, but okay.
I just want to make it through alive.
I think he does, doesn't he?
I think he does. Actually, they shove him on the ground, I believe, at some point, and we're just left.
Yeah, I think he survives.
I'm going to go with he survives.
There's the other second in command who gets gunned down right at the end by Servalan.
Yeah, he dies.
Poor dude. He was so close to making it out of the story alive.
Yeah, he's like one of those guys who makes it out of everything and just trips and hits his head.
Avon goes down
to the basement. They have Servalan chained in the basement.
On the ground.
And Avon's not wearing his studded leather in this, but if he were.
Oh no. No. Avon holds a gun to Servalan and is like, if you tell me where Anna is, or Bartholomew actually, he says, where's Bartholomew?
Where's Bartholomew? Where is he?
He's like, if you tell me where he is, I'll set you free. He says, I'll let you go. And then Tarrant is like, well, you'll set her free. And Avon's like, well, what's the difference? He's like, well, if there's a revolution that's going on right now. No, sorry. Avon says he'll let her go or set her free. And Tarrant's like, no, you'll let her go. And he's like, well, what's the difference? And Tarrant's like, well, you have to convince her this revolution hasn't happened if you're setting her free, except this revolution has happened. So all you can do is let her go. Right.
And this is, I think this is sort of speaking to the this almost successful coup is going to haunt Servalan, right? She's
Right.
never going to feel like she's really in control anymore.
She's never going to be set free from this revolution, basically,
Right.
or from the events of this day.
Right.
And Avon's like, for once, Tarrant, you're right. But at least she won't be in chains anymore if she bloody helps me. Meanwhile, Callie and Dana are upstairs, kind of guarding, and they see Anna go downstairs because Anna wants to go talk with Servalan because she wants to kind of gloat, but also find out what the hell is going on with this Federation thing that Servalan's trying to start.
And she also wants to unchain. I think her ultimate goal, her ideal here is get Servalan on stage and have her promise in front of all these people that she's going to be their figurehead.
Yeah. So she goes downstairs. Dana and Callie follow because they're like, hey, that's kind of weird. She's not like a Federation officer or anyone else. So they follow her.
We didn't actually mention her outfit, but she has this sort of blue.
I thought it was like greeny.
Yeah, bluish green. It's like turquoise almost. And she's wearing a cape. That's what sort of sets it apart from the norm, I guess. I don't know what the norm is.
And that's why she's like, I'm the rebellion. I am the rebellion. And she goes downstairs to the jail cell, and Tarrant and Avon hear her coming, so they move out of the way. Because at this point, Avon still thinks Chesku is Bartholomew, so he's asking Servalan where Chesku is, and she's like, oh, you don't know anything. Like, you don't know anything. And then Anna busts in, and Avon's like, Anna? And Anna's like, Avon?
He pulls the gun on her. I think I didn't pay attention as much as I should have, but I think he holds it like an old revolver. Pretty sure he does.
He does, and I want to mention something about that in just a second, in a little bit.
Really? We mention it every week, because he does it every week.
But I want to mention something else about it, not about Avon, actually.
All right.
But what happens is...
There's a conversation between Avon and Anna, and they sort of go into their backstories.
Their love life.
And Avon's like,
the dirty details. That's where he got the leather outfit from.
Oh, God. Avon, well, he says, I thought you died. And Anna's like, well, you really don't know the truth, do you?
He's like, yeah, I didn't come back because I thought you were dead. I came back also to kill the people who killed you. And Anna's like, well, I'm not dead. And then Avon starts to piece it together because, like...
we hear these, like, overlaid voices.
Which is just Shrinker being like, everyone you looked at was taken away by Bartholomew.
Yep.
Bartholomew's the one. And then Avon's like, why does nothing go my way?
He puts it all together that Anna was Bartholomew and that she was in on the entire plot from the beginning.
Yeah. And he turns and shoots her right as she grabs a knife. And then he holds her as she dies. And she's like, well, I knew if you ever came back, you'd figure it out and I'd have to kill you.
Right. And here's the thing. He holds her as she dies and he kisses her, if I remember correctly, as she dies or right after she dies. And this is interesting because, in some way, Anna is still alive from him. This person who was really only like information, who was really just sort of this fake persona. He puts, it's like what he said before, it's a matter of what we see and whether or not we believe it. And, he saw Anna, he still remembers and loves Anna, and, he still believes it.
I mean, he loved her. Love is a feeling that's very overwhelming and powerful and difficult to change.
Right.
Even when it turns out the person you love is a complete traitor, like Anna is in this case, or like sold you out, like, it's difficult to just be like, well, I don't love you anymore, because love is such a powerful emotion and feeling.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I know this is actually going to sound cliched, but, like, what Avon and Anna, quote unquote, went through, like, fake because of all of this? Is that invalidated because of all of this? And that's, right. I don't have I'm not asking that rhetorically. Like, I don't have an answer to that.
Mm-hmm. It's also like, well, was their love real? I mean, Avon fell in love with Anna. Did he fall in love with
Sula or whatever her real name is?
Did he fall in love with the real person, or was it just like her cover identity? But when she's dying, she says like, "Oh, this was all real. Like, I still love you, Avon." And there's a lot of interesting questions.
Right, and this is actually, I sort of ragged on the romance in City at the Edge of the World, and to some extent also Hostage, but this is one that actually works for me because this is actually related to this question of belief that Series C is asking, I think.
Well, maybe it also works for you because they really put a fine cap on this and kill her off.
Yeah, it's not really like romance. It's like,
she's dying.
She's dying. I still liked it, though.
I think it was good. I guess we're all heartbroken for Avon now because the love of his life is dead. for real now, and he held her in his arms while she died. Can you imagine the emotional roller coaster Avon went through on this episode?
Yeah, I mean...
He thought she was dead, so he was going for revenge, but then he finds out she's alive, so he's all happy, but then he realizes she's a traitor, and then he's the one who has to kill her, and then she dies in his arms.
I mean...
That's enough to ruin any man, let alone Kerr Avon. Strongest man in the world, apparently, emotionally.
Well, this is actually a good point, because this is something similar between Avon and Servalan. I think we talked about how Servalan is going to be held captive by this fear and this idea that a revolution could succeed. Mm-hmm. And I think Avon is sort of, he's held captive by this idea of Anna, right? Like this person who was just really an idea in someone's mind, this person who was thought up as a cover for whatever it was.
Right.
And man, I don't know, he's never able to run away from that. You know, he came back to it in the end.
I mean, at the end, he puts his love aside and he kills her. I guess because of the great sense of betrayal he feels, but also because she's a Federation agent, or at least she was, and then she flipped sides. So that's actually another thing that's not even touched on at all in this episode. Bartholomew was a Federation agent. That means that Anna was a Federation agent, and now she's rebelling, which means she flipped sides at some point. Or
we're still working. I don't believe this because of what we see in this episode, but she's still working with the Federation or / Servalan.
Well, I think what actually happens is that this is just another instance of those second-in-commands trying to take power that always undermines the Federation. Yeah. In this episode, she might even still be working for the Federation for this episode because Chesku, she was married to Chesku. She says that she didn't love Chesku and Chesku didn't love her when she left Avon, but he sheltered her. She probably maybe even still works for the Federation and then just in this moment saw an opportunity to take power.
Yep. It could be any number of things, really. And this is, like Avon said in Harvest of Kairos, a matter of what we see and what we believe.
Well, she's dead, so there's no way we're going to find out now.
And this is where Servalan massively lucks out.
Yeah, because Avon frees her. Avon, like he says, is a man of his word, and at the end of the day, that's all he has.
Yep.
He frees her. Well, he lets her go. And then she picks up a gun and holds it to Avon's head because everybody else beams out, and Avon's taking off his bracelet, I guess, to be with Anna in her dying moments. And then Servalan's like, put the bracelet on. And he puts it on, she's like, I'm going to send back a corpse. But then Avon really lucks out right now because a random second-in-command runs in and Servalan turns to shoot him right at the moment Avon teleports away.
And she looks back and Avon's not there and you just see this look on her face like, oh, damn it.
And this is what I wanted to bring up about being held like a six-shooter when Servalan turns to shoot this guy.
She does it too?
She does it too.
Nice.
Which I don't know if there's anything to that, if there's any kind of parallels to trying to draw with Avon, because, you know, Servalan and Avon kissed in Aftermath.
Maybe.
Or Avon,
Jacqueline Pierce is like, I can do it too.
Avon gets real close to her face when he's talking with her, whether or not there's something going on here. I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting as the final note I had for this episode. Is Servalan six-shooter, question mark? See, I keep my notes brief and short. And I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I didn't actually notice it. But they get back up. There's some banter between them, as there usually is.
This is not really banter so much as Tarrant going, so rumors of your death are greatly exaggerated. And then Avon goes, not so exaggerated as you might think, and walks away.
We didn't touch on our what would Blake do moment, and it's basically the same thing for both of us.
Both of us had the same what would Blake do moment. It's like right when Avon meets with Servalan.
We didn't think of new ones, though, because we wanted to keep this organic, so if they're the same, then they're the same.
Yeah, so, I mean, the way I kind of thought about it was like, well, Blake wouldn't free Servalan. He would, like, torture the information out of her or whatever, get the information out of her or whatever. But I really don't think Blake, at the end, would shoot her cuffs and let her free like Avon did.
Yeah, mine was basically the same thing. I said he wouldn't put his personal objectives over, Servalan being right there and, in a position to be taken out.
Right. I mean, we've seen Blake let Servalan and Travis go before. Just like he doesn't kill them when he has the opportunity to, but I don't think he would explicitly set her free in this instance. Like, I don't think he's as much of a man of his word as Avon is, for example.
And you also have to think about why he set them free, right? There's that one in Seek, Locate, Destroy. He sets Travis free because he's like, now you're... He says something along the lines of like, Travis, you're scared of me, and I know how you operate. So killing you would not be in my best interest.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Exactly. Overall, I think a good episode.
I think this is one of the best. Yeah, I think, again, the only thing that drags it down for me, at least, is that it's just in this house, which is, it's fine, I guess. It's not too big of a detractor.
Yeah, no, I think it works. Everything, I think, comes together in the story. I really like how it's it's a contained Avon story. It's like Avon has his
time in the sun, his chance to shine,
right.
His moment of glory. I don't know. There's a couple more. There's good quotes from this. There's a couple more I want to point out that just draws the parallels between Avon and Servalan and what they're trying to do. There's a scene where Villa asks something. He asks Avon, "Don't we," referring to the Liberator crew, "get a say in this?" And Avon says, "By all means, say away." And in this moment, Avon, he like redemocratizes, I think, this multiplicity of like viewpoints, these multiple opinions. Whereas, Servalan actually frames this in an interesting way. We touched on like how she wants to reestablish this monolith of information and truth and stuff, but she frames this in an interesting way. She has a line, "It's the duty of surveillance to keep track of everyone." And she frames it as a duty. Right. It's like something you have to do. Like the people in power have this like duty to control the information and keep track of everything and surveil everything.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I guess because that was just the life she grew up with, right? The Federation, always being in total control of information. But I don't know what that's saying.
Yeah, we haven't gotten, and I know a little bit about this. I don't think I know the whole story. We haven't gotten some of Servalan's motivations, why she's so hungry for power.
Right. We don't know her backstory either, her childhood.
Right.
We don't actually know a lot about Servalan when you really think about it. We don't really know anything almost.
Right.
Except that she likes to drink blue milk after... Anyway. I actually surprisingly don't have much else to say about the story because I said everything I wanted to during the plot summary.
Yeah, I pretty much touched on everything.
We do have an email from Sergeant Drano that we can read out now and respond to, which may prompt some more discussion. Hey guys, so Rumors of Death, man, what a great episode this is. I know I'm sending these emails to you guys ahead of time. Yes, this email arrived on the 14th of July. So, a month ago, actually, since we're recording this. So if you haven't seen this episode yet, do not read this email until you have. Spoilers follow, and this is such a great episode, I hate to spoil anything for you. Leading with Avon, captured and tortured. Doesn't even have any shoes. More desperate looking than we've ever seen her.
Oh wow, I didn't notice that.
I'm looking forward to hearing you guys' thoughts on this scene. Did you think you'd skipped an episode? Were you surprised when the tables were suddenly turned? Avon's pretty hard, letting himself be tortured for 5 days without giving his name just to get to Shrinker. Shrinker turns into a quivering mass on the Liberators. The crew taunt him. Callie feels uncomfortable with all this. How did you guys feel? Did you pity Shrinker? Was this behavior from our heroes too petty? Too unheroic? I think we've touched on that already.
I don't think so, because they're not really heroes.
Yeah, they're not heroes. They're not good people either. It's like explicitly made out multiple times on the show that they're not heroes.
Right,
and we shouldn't be rooting for these people.
We might see them do heroic things from time to time, but overall, these are people who are mostly out for themselves.
And we might see them as heroes because they're the protagonists, and that's generally how protagonists are portrayed. And then another brilliant double turnaround with Counselor Chescu giving us some exposition about a reunified Federation, derided by his wife, only to be confronted with Federation troopers. Is Chescu a traitor? No, the troopers are fake, and his wife Sula is resistance. Bang, he's dead. Some really great efficient storytelling happening here. We're introduced to Major Grenly and Section Leader Forrest. Seemed like a couple of regular guys, fairly likable. I found myself rooting for them and a little in spite of myself. You? Cool little variation on the teleport effect with us teleporting down from the perspective of Avon and Shrinker, the background changing behind them. Avon has a cool gun too, and then we finally get a face for Anna Grant, one of the few people Avon ever cared about. I'm curious to know if you guys realize at this point that Anna and Sula are the same person. You'd think it would be obvious, but I find that about 50% of first-time viewers, myself included, didn't realize that Sula is Anna until it's finally revealed later in the episode. Shrinker also tells us about Bartholomew, that Bartholomew must have killed Anna. When did you guys figure out who Bartholomew was when Avon said it? I didn't piece that together at all. And there was kind of a metafictional thing where metaphorical thing where Bartholomew did kill Anna because the personality of Bartholomew killed this Anna personality, and she just became Sula, if you really think about it. Grenly and Forrest send a team out to investigate the perimeter. Interesting that Forrest makes the right call, that they should lock it all down, but the more experienced Grenly overrides him, telling them they can't shut down the beaches just because a giant shark is swimming around eating people. It would hurt tourism. Some great scenes with Avon and Shrinker finally extracting that Bartholomew is somehow connected to Counselor Chescu, and then another classic Avon moment, leaving Shrinker one way out and teleporting up after Avon coldly tells Shrinker, I've done far worse than kill you, I've hurt you, and I wish to go on hurting you. I shall leave you as you left me, as you left her, marooned for all eternity in the center of a dead planet buried alive.
Jesus.
I didn't remember him being that cold and dark. Jesus. Avon. Next, we see Sula's rather brilliant plan to get her forces through the perimeter by posing as Federation troopers and a ringer for Chescu. Poor Major Grenly thinks he has everything under control, but he's being played like a violin. Confusion follows with Federation troopers shooting each other. Good staging with the assault on the compound, and Grenly and Ford's gunned down in cold blood. And finally, Sula's forces bust down Servalan's door, and the President is at their mercy. Gets a good smack for mouthing off, too. Meanwhile, unaware the revolution is in progress, Avon is determined to confront Servalan directly and blow the top off her head off if she doesn't give him Bartholomew. Wow. On Earth, Sula and Hob argue about whether Servalan is more useful alive or dead. What do you guys think? What would have been the smartest course of action if you had been in their position? If I was in their position, Servalan was dead before she even got captured. Avon and Co teleport down and sneak into the compound, ironically taking out Federation troopers that are actually resisting skies. They find the mortally wounded Major Grenly, who tells them where Servalan is. Tarrant, yes, Major, you're dying, but that's what you paid for. Ouch. Then they find her, Servalan beaten and chained up in the cellar, and OMG, there's some terrific dialogue here. Avon, is that it? Have you finally lost your nerve? Have you murdered your way to the wall of an underground room? Servalan, it's an old wall. Avon, it waits. I hope you don't die before you reach it. And the final tragic twist, Servalan's recognition of the name Anna when asked about Bartholomew, Avon's realization that Anna is Bartholomew just as she draws on him and he shoots her. She dies in his arms, and in despair, Avon takes off his teleport bracelets as Federation troopers storm the compound. Servalan is going to send up a corpse, but in a moment of distraction, Avon escapes. So Major Grenly came through after all. His actions calling in reinforcements probably saved the Federation. In contrast, Avon had a chance to destroy Servalan's power by either blowing the top of her head off or simply leaving her to be found in disgrace, chained to that wall. It feels like Avon and Servalan are really being set up as nemesis at this point. Servalan thinks Avon is behind the revolution, even though he's not. Avon feels very much in command this episode with Tarrant as his number 2. I think you guys would also agree that Avon very much acts in character as Avon this episode. He is not really becoming more like Blake. He's less interested in revolution and more concerned with personal vendettas. We also have what it feels like the closest we've come so far to the Federation being out and out overthrown by the Resistance. Fantastic episode, one of the best, 7 out of 7. Kerboy Avon count 2. See attached Sergeant Drano Station 7 on the door. I need a drink. Yeah. Maybe some creme de menthe.
Yeah, a couple things I want to touch on in that. Yeah, we mentioned at the beginning of this season how we, had heard stuff like Avon becomes more like Blake and stuff, and I don't really see that playing out. He still feels very Avon-like to me.
Yeah, he does. Definitely to me, especially in this story where this story wouldn't have happened if Blake was on the show at all in any capacity. There was no way this was happening. You
also bring up something, you talk about how, they're gunning down these Federation troopers that are actually rebels, right? And the irony of that. And that is, I'm thinking now, like, this is, like, at the most boiled down, like, simplified level, Series C is about, like, what you see isn't what you get, right?
Right.
And I don't know, man, like, it's there too. And that's a very kind of scary thought when you're watching a show, like,
right.
When you watch a TV, like, the entire assumption is what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And I think Blake 7, specifically Series C, is doing some really trippy stuff with that.
Yeah, I don't really have much to comment on the email because I feel like we responded to a lot of it actually in this episode.
Yep.
I'm going to just take a quick skim through the email, make extra sure about that. There wasn't anything I want to talk about. Yeah, so there's nothing else I really want to respond to here in your email, Sergeant Drano, but thank you for emailing us.
Yep.
I do feel like we addressed everything you talked about in the actual episode. Conveniently, I suppose. We have 2 other emails besides the one from Sergeant Drano that we're going to respond to. The first one is from Carl, who emailed us many, many weeks ago. He's actually the one who asked us to talk about what Doctor Who was airing around the episode of Blake 7.
Right.
So he says, thanks for referencing contemporary Doctor Who at screening time at the beginning of each podcast. I do feel a little guilty for asking for this, as it does require a little bit more research, but the feeling soon wears off. Connecting to my impressions during original screening, I do recall connecting the theme of the search for Star 1 in Series B with the search for a key to time arc. That's an interesting connection. I've just watched Children of Auron, I felt it started well, got a little bogged down in the middle, and had a cracking finish few actors can make, being motherly, more scary than being seductive than the inspired JP. This was a story where nobody won. Dana was new Gan again, and Avon with characteristic empathy at the end. Tarrant, how's Callie? Avon sleeping, she's fine. Probably peeved he got distracted by this disastrous trap instead of enjoying sweet revenge back on Earth. Really enjoyed your guest on the city on the edge last week. I think you mean Harvest of Kairos. You have commented a few times of Serverland's lack of bra. Whilst I have not done a detailed study, my observation is that none of the women seem to be wearing bras where the costume allows us to be noticeable. This is a symbol for feminism at the time. Regards, Carl from Sydney. It's still a symbol for feminism, actually not wearing a bra. Hashtag free the nipple. Although the movement now is more like, why are women not allowed to be shirtless? But not wearing a bra is still kind of a symbol of body positivity, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually interesting that you bring that up, and that's not really something that I had noticed. But like, yeah, the and actually hesitate to say feminism because like there's so many different, I don't know what you call them, branches of feminism, some of which like completely disagree with each other. That like I don't know that we can just say feminism is like a singular thing. But like, yeah, that is something associated with at least some parts of different feminist movements. Definitely, I think from still today, but also really prominently from an earlier time, the short hair, no bra, stuff like that.
Definitely.
Don't feel guilty. Yeah. I would say don't feel guilty about asking us to look up the Doctor Who stuff because that even helps it put it in perspective for us too. So
right.
And it's good to know.
Helps us place it mentally, temporally, I guess. And then we also have another email from Maurice in response to our response to his email last week. Remember last week he emailed us about the Delta symbol and about the Federation logo in Blake 7, and we responded to it a bit, and he has responded. He also said a couple other things, part of the reason why we completely nixed the quiz section. Anyway, hi again. Thanks for reading my previous letter at the cap of episode 33 and replying to it. As regards the preponderance of triangles in aerospace context, well, let's face it, they point up. Plus, there's also the aerospace term delta V, pronounced delta V, written as Greek letter delta V, meaning change in velocity. As you said, Delta introduced the logo in the late 50s, 1959 in fact, with its first jet service. If you look at the attached vintage image, which I'll put in the show notes, you'll see how the white split in said logo apes the shape of a bent back wing. I think you mean swept back wing. In the case of NASA's meatball logo, the swoopy red arrowhead delta was inspired by a twisted and cambered supersonic wing model as described in the link that follows, which I'll also put in the show notes. Star Trek's arrowhead logo was referred to in at least one internal memo as the Flying A. An early blunt-tipped version can be seen on a 1964 sketch for a field jacket by costume designer William Ware Theiss. Put that also in the show notes. As to my comment about pruning the circular arguments, my concern wasn't about what you were discussing, it's that you both kept saying the same thing over and over without leading anywhere. So in that instance, I meant prune as in trim the redundancy rather than whack out the argument. Hope that clarifies things. Cheers, Maurice. In regards to the Delta logo being used a lot in aerospace-related things, it's probably because about the 50s and 60s, because I went and looked up NASA was founded about in the 50s.
Yeah, I looked it up for the notes too, so it should be in the notes for that episode, but I don't remember what it was, what exact year.
That's a lot of the time that like supersonic and jet engines were really coming to be at the forefront, and it was discovered that a delta-shaped wing was more aerodynamically efficient for those types of airplanes than a straight wing that had been kind of the norm since then. If you look at a lot of the early jet fighters of the United States, kind of like the P-59, it has a straight wing, but later jet fighters, they realized that it was a lot more aerodynamically efficient and just easier to maneuver if you use a delta-shaped wing. And doing that, I guess that's where a lot of these logos come from. Delta-shaped wings are just kind of better, really. The most famous and the biggest delta-shaped wing, the most obvious is the Concorde. If you look at the Concorde, that has a massive. It's actually not exactly a delta. It started as a delta in the original planning stages, but they realized that at the speeds the Concorde would be going and the speed ranges that it had to go through, it was more efficient to use kind of a. I don't remember the name of it, but it refers to the shape of like an archway. Like almost an Arabian archway that has the like large curve and then it comes to a point at the top. Similar shape to that, but it started as a delta wing. So there's your fun facts about delta wings. We do have one other email from RG. It's rather short, but we wanted to bring it up because it directly answers something we brought up, I think.
Last week.
because you seemed interested, Zenith is the number 3 Blake 7 podcast in Australia. It's beaten by Launching the Pilot and Spacefall. RG, I didn't know about Launching the Pilot.
And yeah, we are number 3. If you search Blake 7, we are number 3 here in the US on Apple Podcasts, but we're the number 2. I think we're the number 2 Blake 7 podcast. If I remember correctly, Launching the Pilot is a podcast that reviews first episodes and pilots of TV shows. It's not necessarily a Blake 7 podcast, but it is second, which is a little sad when you just type in Blake 7 and we're not above them, but whatever. It's fine.
They might have more listenership than us.
They do.
That's fine,
They
though.
do. I'm pretty sure I would bet
Good
that
money.
they do, yeah.
So those are our emails for this week. If you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Avon's tragic love life. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Zenith, a Blake 7 podcast. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast. And follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching Sarcophagus and again, RG is going to be on that episode with us. But until then, the end.